Hi, I'm Nathaniel Brooks, and welcome to Echo Soul. Have you ever felt like lying down all day, not out of laziness, but because something deep inside just shut down? It's as if your body says no, but your mind can't explain why. Today, we're going to explore that feeling, not as a weakness, but as a message from your soul. Through the wisdom of Carl Jung, we'll uncover what your inner world might be trying to tell you. Let's start with that feeling, the one where you wake up and everything feels heavy. You don't want to move. The idea of doing anything feels pointless. You're not sad exactly, but you're not alive either. It's as though life has turned gray, and your body whispers, "Just stay here. Don't move." Now, the world around us doesn't like this kind of stillness. We're told that being productive equals being valuable. If you're lying down, you must be lazy, weak, or failing. But what if that moment of stillness isn't your enemy? What if it's your soul trying to communicate something that words can't? Carl Jung believed that the psyche, our inner self, has its own language. It speaks through feelings, dreams, and moments when life forces us to stop. He said that when we ignore our inner world for too long, it finds ways to get our attention. Sometimes that comes through exhaustion, emptiness, or even illness. What looks like a breakdown might actually be a breakthrough waiting to happen. When you feel like doing nothing, it might not be because you're lazy. It could be that your conscious mind and your deeper unconscious self are out of sync. Jung called this imbalance between ego and unconscious. The ego wants to keep pushing, producing, performing. It's the outer self, the version of you that lives for approval and survival. But beneath that lies another world, the unconscious, filled with forgotten memories, repressed desires, and unlived potential. When this world is neglected, it doesn't scream, it whispers. And sometimes that whisper takes the form of stillness. Think of your body and mind like an orchestra. When one instrument goes out of tune, the entire symphony sounds off. That's what happens when your conscious life ignores your inner needs. The stillness you feel, that pull toward doing nothing, could be the soul's way of saying, something's missing. Jung often spoke of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we'd rather not see. Maybe you've been pushing away anger, sadness, creativity, or a quiet longing for change. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It waits. It grows heavier, denser, and eventually it weighs you down until you're forced to notice. Feeling like lying down all day can be your shadow saying, "Please, stop pretending I'm not here." So, what is your shadow trying to say? Maybe you've been living someone else's life, chasing goals that never felt like yours. Maybe you've silenced your emotions to appear strong. Maybe you've been working so hard that you forgot what joy feels like. Jung would say that your soul is asking for integration, to bring these disowned parts of yourself back into wholeness. He called this journey individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, beyond masks, roles, and expectations. Individuation often begins with a collapse, when the outer world stops making sense, when motivation dies, when your plans lose meaning. That's when the inner world begins to awaken. The moment you stop running, you finally hear the whisper. Who am I, really? That question, who am I, is the key. Because lying down, doing nothing, can sometimes be the most honest act of self-listening. Your body knows when you've gone too far away from yourself. It knows when the soul is starving. So it shuts everything down, forcing you into silence. Not to punish you, but to bring you home. In Jungian psychology, this is not laziness. It's the soul's intervention. The psyche is calling for balance, between doing and being, between achieving and simply existing. The modern world worships speed, But the soul speaks in silence. It doesn't shout in alarms or deadlines. It speaks through fatigue, through that strange longing to stop, to breathe, to feel again. So what do you do when this happens? The first step is not to fight it. Fighting your own stillness is like yelling at a storm to stop raining. Instead, listen. Ask yourself, when did I last feel alive? What have I been avoiding? Sometimes the answer comes through a memory. Sometimes it's a feeling in your chest or a dream that keeps returning. Jung believed dreams are messages from the unconscious, the psyche's way of balancing the self. You don't have to analyze every dream or turn your fatigue into a research project. Just begin by noticing. When you feel that emptiness, sit with it. Let it speak. Maybe it's saying, you've outgrown this version of life. Or maybe, you need to grieve something you never allowed yourself to feel. In a culture that glorifies doing, resting becomes an act of rebellion. But true rest, soulful rest, is different from distraction. It's not scrolling through your phone or numbing yourself. It's the kind of rest where you allow space for silence, where you let the unconscious breathe. Try this. When you feel that heaviness, instead of running from it, ask, what is this feeling trying to protect me from? Often, what we call lack of motivation is actually a defense mechanism. Your psyche might be saying, you can't move forward until you face what's been buried. Sometimes, lying down all day is your soul's way of processing deep inner change. Think of the caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. It literally dissolves inside the cocoon. It looks like death, but it's transformation. Your stillness could be your cocoon, uncomfortable, silent, but necessary. Carl Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." He didn't mean suffering for suffering's sake. He meant that awakening often begins in darkness, when life no longer fits who you are becoming. When you feel the urge to do nothing, you might actually be in that sacred pause before growth. The danger is when we misinterpret this phase. We label ourselves lazy, depressed, or broken, and in doing so, we miss the message. Jung would urge you to reframe this moment. Ask, if my soul were speaking through this fatigue, what would it be saying? Maybe it's asking you to rest. Maybe it's asking you to change direction. Or maybe it's asking you to finally feel what you've been avoiding for years. Each person's answer will be different, but the invitation is the same: to reconnect with yourself, to stop living only through your ego's expectations and return to your inner world. Because the truth is, your soul doesn't measure time in productivity or success. It measures time in meaning, and meaning cannot be rushed. Take a moment and imagine your life as a conversation between two selves: the outer self, who wants to achieve, prove, and perform, and the inner self, who longs to rest, feel, and simply be. When these two selves stop talking, you feel numb, but when they listen to each other again, energy slowly returns. That's when movement becomes natural, not forced. So maybe the next time you feel like lying down all day, don't judge it. Instead, treat it as a doorway. Behind that door, there might be exhaustion, but there's also wisdom. Your soul might be saying, stop running from yourself. I've been waiting for you to listen. And listening doesn't require doing anything dramatic. Sometimes it means taking a walk without headphones, watching the sunset without photographing it, writing a few honest lines in your journal, or simply lying down. Not to escape life, but to return to it. Jung's wisdom reminds us that our greatest insights often come from the quietest moments. When the ego loses control, the unconscious begins to speak. And in that dialogue, between the light and the shadow, the conscious and the hidden. You begin to rediscover who you truly are. Doing nothing isn't always a sign of decay. Sometimes it's the soil preparing for growth. The seed doesn't resist the darkness of the earth. It stays still, trusting that something within it knows when to rise. Your soul works the same way. So, today, if you feel like doing nothing, listen deeply. Maybe you're not falling behind. Maybe you're falling inward. So, what if the feeling of wanting to do nothing isn't a problem to fix, but a teacher to listen to? Your soul isn't lazy, it's wise. It slows you down to protect you, to guide you, to help you realign with what truly matters. Jung showed us that the psyche is always seeking wholeness. Sometimes that journey begins in silence, in bed, in stillness, in those strange days when the world feels paused. So instead of forcing movement, try listening. The stillness you fear might be the doorway your soul has been waiting for you to open.